How many of you have grown up learning stories about how stealing from other people is bad? Especially whenever you're jealous or feel like you deserve a little bit more. So, in this case, whenever I was growing up, my mom always told me to do exactly that. If there was something I wanted to work out and do as much as I could to receive such material object or whatever it was whenever I was a kid, whether it was the newest toy or whatever. But it seems like this is under attack nowadays. Now, the new threat to the American dream is democratic socialism, or how it truly should be is socialism. The reason I say this is because socialism is posing a direct threat to American dream in which we work for what we want. We're not instantly gifted something as if we're entitled to any sort of privilege or anything within our lives. So, over the course of this speech, I'll deliver 3 main points on top of why I believe capitalism is a superior economic system to socialism. That being the first, that socialism, or democratic socialism, as it is given the name of, is inherently un-American against what the founding fathers wanted for this nation. Secondly, how socialism steals from the people equally, as it claims. And third, how the Nordic model has been used as an example of successful democratic socialism economic principles, when truly it's just a fallacy. So, with the first, socialism is inherently un-American. The reason I say this, and why it's against the founding fathers' principles, is because it gives the federal government extreme power over the people and the corporation that the individuals compose. The reason I say this is because socialism will nationalize and then later control the means of production and the exact prices for these sort of products. The Constitution laid out exactly what it intended for federal government, to provide the bare minimum when it comes to these sort of things. For the basic security and the welfare for the people with the tranquility and the availability to allow liberty for individuals. What it meant in layman's terms is a police force, a military force, and then some sort of judicial system to make sure that laws are being implemented and that they're the correct laws in accordance to the Constitution. Whenever socialism tries to control the means of production and telling people what they can and cannot do and how much they will receive from these certain goods is exactly in contradiction with what the founding fathers laid out since the beginning of this nation. So, which leads me to my second point, how it steals from the people. So, one of the reasons why democratic socialism is very appealing to individuals, especially millennials, people in my age group, is that it offers people all these sort of welfare benefits, whether it's education, free healthcare, all these sorts of things. You wonder, where's the money coming from? Well, people such as Bernie Sanders like to spout off about corporations will receive massive tax spikes. But that's not exactly the case. Many of these democratic socialist countries get their revenue from the people. They're taxed at extremely higher proportions as opposed to these corporations. So it's the people that end up getting stolen most of their money from, and the bigwigs that do receive, let's say, the same amount of tax, or have the same tax rates, will not feel the punch as much as we do. So, it's basically the story of a failed Robin Hood. It steals from the rich to give to the poor, but as I've just said, it steals from everyone equally, which is the beautiful part about socialism. It gives everyone an equal playing ground, or so to speak, that's what it offers. Well, in execution, not so much. Capitalism is the more free and the more beneficial, whether it's for personal freedoms or even economic freedoms for the individual. Whenever I say this, it's the fact that it equals the playing ground for everyone to start off at. This is more achieved in capitalist countries as opposed to socialism, because what socialism offers is equity, the equality of outcome. Everyone will receive the same, despite how much you work, how much education you receive, or anything you invest within your company, you will receive the exact same what they tell you they get from the all-powerful government. So, last point, whenever we get into economic systems, or the government systems that impose these economic solutions, so to speak. So, the Nordic model, popularized by Bernie Sanders, or I like to call him BS, is what he claims is that these Nordic countries, specifically Denmark, Norway, and Sweden, popularized these socialistic procedures and methods and achieved them to such a success that these countries are doing extraordinarily well. Well, that's a little messed up. Countries such as Denmark, the Prime Minister, Nuss Messer, said in a speech in 2015 in an interview, that Denmark is not a socialist country. It's a free market economy, but it does rely on welfare systems. He said this because of the election the election at the time in 2014, shortly afterward, because I said it's 2015, Bernie Sanders was starting off the whole, Denmark, the Nordic model, showing these as success stories to this economic system. And he had to correct him. The prime minister of the country he was claiming to be socialist corrected him. Also, another important fact to note is the fact that Norway and Sweden both started off as this highly successful capitalist countries. And now they're starting to backpedal, and they've been backpedaling since the 1990s, whenever they started noticing that these issues that were arising because of their socialistic economic principles that they were trying to implement. The fact that these people were receiving upwards of 50% of tax rates, and corporations were only receiving 10%. And that's exactly the opposite of what Bernie Sanders is trying to do. He's trying to raise the taxes on corporations and lower it, or in comparison, lower it for people. But that's not what the Nordics, or what the Scandinavians are even doing in the first place. Now that the Nordic model is starting to fail, as Bernie Sanders wanted it to work as, one of the only success stories is Venezuela. And if you've been paying attention to the news, you know how this has been a complete and utter bombshell. It's just not working at all. People are standing for hours in bread lines just trying to receive food or the basic necessities for life. It's crazy. If you just simply look it up, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Venezuela has been one of the only countries that adapt these socialistic principles, or other countries, other failed nations like the USSR, which had communism, and New Zealand, which turned to a capitalistic economy shortly after it started tanking and becoming bankrupt and was not able to sustain whatsoever. So, in conclusion, the three main parts which I said, which socialism being inherently un-American, how it's evil by stealing from the people, from the historical context of people always being taxed higher, and lastly, how the Nordic principle is just complete and utter fallacy. Not only has the Prime Minister denied it, but the countries themselves have denied it. So I'll leave you with this. There's a popular little quote given by Vladimir Lenin, that socialism's ultimate goal is to reach communism. If you want to reach the point where we've been trying to, since we got out of the Cold War, of trying to get out of and never having communism with our country, we're gonna have to turn our backs on socialism, because it's already turned our back on us. Thank you.